Hi guys, Mortgage Mark. Let's talk about this is kind of the prelude to another script. So CCRs, current client referrals, there's a whole nother video. Be sure to check that out. But this is the start of that. This video is so important. It lays the groundwork for establishing wonderful, high quality customer service, and also really and truly sets the tone so that later when you ask, you don't feel creepy asking for a referral. So be sure to check out our current client referral, our CCR, current client referral scripts, CCR scripts. Check that out because it's going to reference you to come back here to watch how you do a great intro. And so the reason why is, again, this sets the tone. So there's two parts to this. The big part, the main part, is what's called the triangle of trust. And I'll go with that script in a second. But inside of that is also just to pay honor, to edify your referral partner. So let's talk about that. And let's give an example. So ring, ring, phone comes up. Hey, Mr. Smith, Mark Pfeiffer here. How are you today? Good, good, good. Right. So whether I called him, he called me, it doesn't matter. But hey, Mr. Smith, out of curiosity, before we get going, how'd you get my name and number? Who told you about us? Oh, it was Joe, the realtor. Oh my gosh. How do you know Joe? Right. So here's where I'm going to start making the connection. The triangle is Joe to me, Joe to the borrower, and then you connect borrower to me. That's the missing link that we're about to establish. How do you know Joe? Oh, Joe's my neighbor of 15 years. Oh my gosh, 15 years. I bet you got some stories about Joe. So you've known him for 15 years. You guys are good friends, it sounds like, et cetera, right? Get him talking about Joe. Yeah, man, I love him and this, and this. Man, that is awesome. Look, that is huge. Well, let me tell you something right now, Mr. Smith. I love Joe too. I've known Joe for, I don't care if you can say 6 weeks. Man, I've just met Joe recently, and he is the most impressive realtor I've ever met. He's a great man, great husband, all these things. You're just regurgitating what they just told you, saying it in your own words, and you agree with him. He's amazing, great, awesome, wonderful, incredible. I don't care if you've known him for 6 years, 6 weeks. It doesn't matter. Edify, honor Joe. My God, Joe's the smartest freaking guy in the world. Why is he so smart? Because he just referred you. So, Mr. Smith, my gosh, you must trust Joe. I mean, obviously, you're calling me, and this is a big deal, right, to buy a home. I just want to tell you right now, my number one objective today is to make sure I crush it and do an amazing job. I want to be a 10 out of 10. And it's important, guys, to say 10 out of 10. I'll tell you why in a minute. I want to make sure I'm a 10 out of 10 because Joe obviously is putting his reputation on the line by referring me. And it is so important to me that I make Joe look good because I know that Joe trusts me, and obviously you trust Joe. So I got to do such a good job that you end up trusting me to make sure this is feeling really good. So if I do your mortgage, that's wonderful. That's not my goal. My goal is to make Joe look good. Does that make sense? I want to be a 10 out of 10. Capiche? You on board? Yeah, Mark, I'm on board. Cool, cool, cool. So guys, pay honor. So some people might say, well, what if Joe, they don't know Joe? Mr. Smith, how do you know Joe? I don't. I found him online, or I saw a sign in the yard and I called him. Oh my gosh. You don't know how lucky you are. You just called Joe, and the internet can be a super scary place. The sign in the yard, man, you don't know who's good. Doesn't matter, guys. You don't know who's good out there, who isn't. Joe's freaking amazing. He's one of the top realtors I know. He is incredible. He's impressive. He's a great man, great husband, great father, great. And just beyond that, I don't know how he fits it all in, but the dude crushes it. Customer service ratings, when we see him, they're like 10 out of 10, 11 out of 10. The guy's insane. So good for you, Mr. Smith, to find Joe the realtor. So guys, I don't care if you know Joe or not, or they know Joe or not, you honor Joe because it creates that bond a little smarter. And again, Joe's so freaking smart he referred you. So that's the triangle of trust. And the reason why, guys, that 10 out of 10, you got to ask that because that's going to be set up in the CCR script later. But Mr. Smith, it is super important to me that I get a 10 out of 10. I'm going to ask you at the end of this call, after every call, moving forward, Mr. Smith, that I'm going to ask you, how do we do 1 to 10? I'm going to do my very best to earn a 10. Does that make sense? Yes, it does. And guys, that's the secret sauce. We will be asking for that 1 out of 10. So continue on to the CCR script if you want to know more. But for right now, that is how you set a strong intro. It shows that service is so important to you that you honor your referring partner so much that they in their head can think, man, I can refer this guy too because he cares that freaking much. So guys, work on this script, make it your own. It is so important. And it is the secret sauce to getting more CCRs, current client referrals. I went 17 years without doing this hardcore. I did the triangle trust. I did all that, but I never asked at the end. It's because I didn't have the good setup. So the first time you talk to anybody, same thing. And if you talk to them, the spouse later on, they repeat it in front of that same spouse that was there before. It's spouse number 1, number 2. If you meet number 2 and they're together, you say the exact same thing over, guys, because it hammers home how much this matters. It is so important. Please learn this. If you guys have questions, comments, all that stuff, you know how to reach me. And just remember, guys, just keep chasing excellence.